So this is going to be my guide on how to run Tujen logbooks. I think they're quite profitable, and you can definitely get a mage blood within 1 week by doing this. Before I start the guide, I need to clarify a few things, because in the thumbnail I put that you're going to make about 6 to 10 divs an hour, but in the first 1 or 2 days you're not going to make that much. As soon as you finish the campaign, you're looking at about 2 divs an hour. However, how much currency you make from running Tujen logbooks is going to depend on different factors, such as the economy, how often you're liquidating, because when you're doing Tujen logbooks, you're going to get a bunch of items, and if you're going to liquidate every 5 to 10 logbooks, then you're going to waste a lot of time and you're not going to make as much. My advice to you is to sell as much as you need to keep buying logbooks again and again, and only liquidate after running like 50 to 100 logbooks or at the end of your day. Now, I need to tell you a few things. First of all, this expedition locker, it has one button here. This is Affinity. What this means is, if I click this, when I control click an item, such as the expedition logbook or the expedition coinage, instead of going to this stash, it's going to go into the expedition locker. You can see them here. Something else that you need to know about running logbooks is that you can control click the NPCs. If you go to Tujen, instead of clicking him and click haggle, if you just control click him, it will open this window, and instead of dragging this, you can just use the scroll wheel.
Not quite what I'm looking. I'll take it.
Also, if you make a mistake, just keep your left hand on the escape so that you can quickly exit this window, so you don't have to move your cursor to X. You can just use your left hand, tap escape, and then you're good to go. How much you're going to haggle at Tujen, it's going to be different, especially in the first day, but usually a good rule of thumb would be 40 lessers for 1 kiosk worth of items and 30 greaters for 1 kiosk worth of items. But this is just a general rule, because it's going to be different. Sometimes you're going to have a lot of these, sometimes you're going to have lots of greaters, sometimes you're going to have lots of grants and no greaters, no lessers.
What's your bet?
The same is true for Danning. You can just control click him like this. So this is just for efficiency. Now let's talk about the defensive layers and what builds are good for running logbooks. The most important defense layer you can have when running logbooks is going to be evasion. Then you are going to need some life recovery, either life regenerate per second or life leech. And the third one would be spell suppression. In terms of what builds are good at running logbooks, I'm just going to assume that any build that can place the spell before the explosive, or a build that deals damage over time, it's going to be good. I'm just going to assume, because I've only played Cold Dot, and the Cold Dot is basically a star for running logbooks. Let's talk about day 1. How do you do logbooks day 1? First, you need to complete the encounter for Tujen and Danning so that you can invite them to your hideout. I recommend you do every expedition encounter, because every expedition encounter has a chance to drop a black site logbook. But if not, just do the Tujen and Danning so that you can have them in your hideout. And you're going to buy a few items. The first time you encounter Tujen and you invite him to your hideout, you will have the ability to haggle, and he will give you a free haggle window, and maybe you can get a few chaos from him. If you do get a few chaos, what you can do, if you still have some artifacts, you can buy an exotic coinage for 1 chaos. If not, try to look for a logbook that is about 45 to maybe 67. And if you can get these for I made a mistake here. If you can get them for like 2, 3, 5 chaos, maybe 7, just buy them. Now let me show you how I would buy logbooks. Logbooks, especially at League Start, they are not available in bulk and you should not buy them in bulk. What I suggest you do is to buy them from the trade website. I have this filter, I'm going to leave it in the description. Basically what you do, if they are level 83 on the market, you'd put here area level 83 and you'd look at layouts, the implicits, and some of the less important implicits like these ones right here. So the best layout is going to be Vault Temple. This is by far the best layout. Then it's going to be Forest Ruins. And after that it's going to be Dried Riverbed and Bluffs. The most important implicit is going to be increased number of explosives and then increased explosive radius. So you wanted to have on your logbook one of these implicits and another one of these, or maybe 2 of these. Increased number of remnants, twice as many items, increased quantity of artifacts, underground area, chest marker, and increased number of runic monster markets. Increased number of runic monster markers. So you hit search. Unfortunately, I don't know how you can force them to be only on the black site area. So you just have to look at them by eye. And let's see. This one right here would be a really good logbook. So I would just whisper this guy because it has increased quantity of artifacts, is on Vault Temple, and has increased number of explosives. This is how you buy the logbooks. Now there's a different thing, which is going to be Vorana Logbooks, which can be split or non-split. When you buy a Vorana logbook, the most important modifier would be increased quantity of artifacts dropped by monsters, but sometimes you cannot get it. You cannot buy a logbook that has this implicit. So I would just look at a Vorana logbook that doesn't have that implicit and pay attention here that they are not splitted, because I have this logbook that has Vorana. This I split it before. I can no longer split this one. So I have these 2 searches. I have Vorana Split and non-split. Sometimes I need to check the split ones as well because I can get a really good bargain. For example, if I get one with increased number of explosives on Vault Temple and increased quantity of artifacts dropped by monster, that's a really good Vorana logbook. You don't need to buy a Vorana logbook that is level 83. Sometimes just buying it level 68, 73, or maybe 78, depending on how cheap or expensive the split beast is. Now you have to do the math. Usually it's not necessarily needed to buy level 83 expedition Vorana logbook. Sometimes, usually most of the time, level 78, 77, 78 Vorana logbooks are the best ones to buy because they are quite cheap and also they drop a significant amount of expedition coins. But it really depends on, let's look at any. It really depends on the modifiers that they have. For example, Mountainside, this one right here, it's trash. So I would not pay too much on this one. But this one right here, Shipwreck with increased quantity of artifacts, this is quite good. And it's not level 83, you can see that it's level 80. And I would just go buy a split beast and split it. The way you would split the logbook, first you need to use Blessed Orbs and get the implicit that matters, get them as much as possible, because when you split it, the logbook keeps the implicits right here. Another way you can buy logbooks is going to be by buying them in bulk from the trade, from the Discord, the Forbidden Trove. So you go to bulk expedition right here, Necropolis, want to sell a book expedition, and you can just buy a bunch of black site logbooks. You can just buy them in bulk if you don't want to buy them manually from the trade website. Now here's how you roll an expedition logbook. You will need either Orb of Alchemies, Orbs of Bindings, and Blessed Orbs. When you use a Blessed Orb, it will change the implicit. So for example, if I want this cemetery and I want more increased quantity of artifacts on the cemetery, I can just use a Blessed Orb. Now you can see that the implicit has changed, and if I'm happy with that, I can start crafting it. In terms of item quantity, just go for anything about 55 and try to have modifiers that you can run, right? The only time you would go for more item quantity would be when you have a logbook that has Vorana on it, such as this one. I would just go for 70 plus on the Vorana ones because they drop a lot of exotic coins and it matters if you have a lot of quantity on it. But for a regular book, 55 or more, it's good to go. Now the way you run a logbook, first of all you press tab, you look at the map and see what's available. You take a quick snapshot. If you see the skull right here, it means that it's a boss, and ideally you'd have it at the end of the explosive reaction. The thing that is important with this boss is that you have remnants that give you increased quantity of items dropped by monsters or increased number of artifacts dropped by monster, like this one right here. So if I have a skull, I would just pay attention to the remnants, which are these ones right here, and I would search for them, for those ones that give increased quantity of artifacts dropped by monsters or increased number of items dropped by monsters, and pretty much ignore everything else. If I don't have a boss, then what I would prioritize would be the currency chest, these ones right here, the big skulls, so these big skulls right here, and the underground areas like this one right here. The blue chests, these are very important because they give you artifacts and some hidden areas, but I think in this map I don't have any hidden area. So this boss, you want to have it after taking all the good remnants that benefit it. You don't want to have the boss at the end of the explosives because all the time, because sometimes you can just get you can just make it too strong and you can fail the logbook. So here's how I would do this. I would just try to hit some of these blue chests if possible. Now I'm not going to be too careful because it's standard, so I don't care. But I would try to get some of these chests. Try to hit some skulls as well.
When I'm ready and not before.
Now, before pressing the detonate here, you just hover and you make sure that you can complete this logbook. You look at the modifiers and you make sure that you can complete it. The Vorana boss fight I'm going to teach you, it's quite simple. As long as you have like 15k evasion or 20k, it's quite easy. One thing that you need to keep in mind, it's going to be these balls that rotate. You need to walk into the smoke and just touch them and they will explode. You have to keep an eye on them, because if you don't, then they will spam too many of them, they stun and they deal a lot of damage. And this is basically the fight, the Vorana fight. Just make sure you don't stay too long into the smoke, because you're going to take a lot of damage. And just pop them whenever you see them, just walk to them and pop them, and that's basically it. This is the boss fight. When you kill level 85 Vorana, it will drop these items, and if it's the good base of ward, you can just look at the roll. If it has max roll or close to max ward roll, then they can sell for much more, like 40k, 50k, 40 chaos, 50 chaos, or 1 div, something like that. What you do with this exotic coinage, you just go to Tujen, you haggle, and you waste all of them. So you just buy as much as possible from Tujen, make sure you don't get scammed. Keep in mind, around 40 of lesser black site artifacts and about 30 craters for 1 chaos worth of items.